You again? Welcome back. Now that's strange. Oh, hi, I'm Marc. I've been a professional artist for
one eternity.
And now I teach art for a living. In this episode of YouTube Art School, we're diving deep into color theory, and I'll show you some advanced color harmonies that you'll be able to use to color your drawings. And I'm pretty sure that you've never seen most of these. So, quickly, let's get this class started. Alright, class is in session. Pay attention. We're about to look at 10 different color harmonies, so you shouldn't have any more trouble coming up with color schemes for your art. But with that said, choosing the right colors is only half the battle. You gotta be careful how you use them. So I'll show you some good examples and some bad examples to equip you better on your coloring adventures. Very epic. Now we'll start with the easy to use color harmonies first, and we'll progressively increase the complexity until we finally reach color madness soon. And by the way, I have all the different harmonies marked in the video timeline, so you can refer back to it later if you need to. Now, the first and simplest color harmony is called monochromatic color harmony. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a color palette made up of all the same hue. Wait, why did I say hue instead of color? Good question, bro. Quickly, let's bring in the chromatic circle to explain. Now, the hue represents the position on the chromatic circle. It's like a light frequency, basically. When we talk about colors, we're really talking about the hue, the value, and the saturation combined. Colors can be bright or dark, saturated or not, and of different hues. Makes sense? Anyways, now that we got that out of the way, let's go back to the monochromatic color harmony I was just introducing. Like I said, we'll create the color palette using colors with the same hue, but not necessarily the same value or saturation. And just in general too, don't stress out too much if you're not following like 100% of the recipe. Just like a real cooking recipe, you're always free to add some extra spices or whatever. Adjust it based on your preferences. Anyways, a monochromatic color palette might look something like this. It all looks basically the same color, except I did make some choices here to adjust the saturation and values to create more contrast around my focal point, aka the face of the character. And the focal point, by the way, being simply what the artist wants the audience to notice first, right? By introducing colors with darker and brighter values around this area, and by adding more saturation to my colors, most people will tend to look here first and then notice the rest after, because the rest has much less contrast in value and saturation. Contrast is exciting. No contrast, not exciting. And this will be the focus with the other color harmonies too. Always try to arrange the more visually exciting colors in your color palette around your focal point. Again, it's not just about the colors that you choose, it's how you use them. Moving on to the second color harmony then, one you might have never heard of before, a dyad harmony. Not a diet or not a dad harmony. A dyad. This one will be a combination of two colors that are separated by one color on the color wheel. These two colors, for example. Now, since we have more than one color, just like having more than one character in a drawing or in a movie, a hierarchy sets in. Some colors, just like characters, are more dominant than others, and as a result attract more attention. Like we saw with the monochromatic harmony, we can adjust the saturation and the values of our colors depending if we want them to pop or to be more discreet. But the hue also plays a big part, which I haven't covered yet. Warm colors, in general, those on this side of the chromatic circle, often tend to be more subconsciously appealing or more interesting to our eye in a primitive sort of way. Meanwhile, cool colors, those on this side, tend to recede in the background. For some reason, we just don't care for them as much. I mention this because we always want a lead color and a secondary color in our visual hierarchy. And well, contrast in color temperature plays into that, just like contrast in saturation and contrast in value. Now, I'm choosing here to go with red as the lead color for my red and orange color palette, since it's naturally a slightly warmer color than orange. Maybe not the most obvious example here with a dyad harmony, but it still kind of applies. And then I'm going to take that orange and desaturate it to cool it down and make it more discreet. From here, if I were to use this color palette to color something, I'd use the vibrant red around my focal point since it's now the lead color. The lead color will often be brighter, more saturated, and warm in temperature, and the same lead color will be the one that I feature most around my focal point. If I did the opposite and made the colors away from my focal point stand out more, it'll more likely than not create a very weird vibe when we look at this. Like we're being misdirected, kind of. I keep wanting to look over here because that's where the colors have the most contrast, but there's nothing worth looking at there. Oh, there's a lot of psychology involved in color theory, which is a big part of why it's so fascinating to me. And if you're looking to dive in a lot deeper into it, you should check out my complete art education program with the link in the video description. It also covers design, anatomy, perspective, and basically everything you would need to be a complete artist with the best foundation possible. It's about 100 hours in total. It's massive. It's 5 years in the making, and we're celebrating reaching 12,000 students this month, so make sure you use the coupon also in the video description to save a big chunk of the total. It'll be valid until the end of the month only, so there's still some time left. Don't miss out. Now, the third harmony, and this will start to go much faster now, is the complementary color harmony. This is one of my favorite because it's the most contrast we'll ever have in a color harmony. This one might be more familiar, but we'll go ahead and select two colors directly opposite on the chromatic circle. We just discussed ways to come up with a lead color and a secondary color, so this will apply here as well. But another thing we can do too is play with the amount of each color, not just the contrast between them. Whatever color I end up choosing as the lead color, I like to keep it in a shorter supply on the drawing to create a sense of rarity. Rarity or scarcity is eye-catching. It's science. The fourth one then is the split complementary harmony. This one is less striking than the full complementary one we just saw, but it's also arguably easier to use. This time, instead of using the color directly opposite on the chromatic circle, we'll select two colors that are analogous to it, or like on both sides of it. In this case, the color that will be more naturally the lead color is the one that's singled out, this one. And if you ever have like a lead color in mind for a design, but you're not sure what other colors to use along with it, like what would work well with it, well, this color harmony here can easily come to the rescue. The fifth color harmony is the triad. This time, 3 colors at equal distance on the chromatic circle. You've seen this one many times before, for example, the red, blue, and yellow triad. Very famous. It's a go-to for superheroes and anime heroes. It's also one of my favorite because it's very colorful. There's a lot of possibility. Here, I'm using it arguably well. Look at the amount of contrast and saturation around my focal point. And here, I'm not. The lead color is not helping feature the focal point. It's only distracting. The sixth color harmony is the analogous harmony. 3 colors right next to each other on the chromatic circle, or basically any quarter of the circle that you like. Just like with a dyad, the range is enough for us to get clear contrast between cool and warm colors and get a good balance. But the closeness in the colors also make these kinds of color palettes very relaxing, kind of dreamy. It would not make for a great dynamic palette. It's usually best for like calm scenes, calm characters. Next then, we have the double complementary color harmony. Whoa, we're getting very fancy now, and this one will be made out of 2 sets of complementary colors immediately next to each other on the chromatic circle. This one I find is awesome when you want to have an overall image with various visual components that clearly scream complementary, but without everything using the exact same colors. Maybe you could use one of the complementary sets for the background elements of your artwork and the other for the foreground elements. Many ways to use it, but definitely more complex. Now, the 8th harmony, and we're almost done, is called a rectangular tetrad. We're already way out there now with these unusual color palettes, but I love them all. The rectangular tetrad will be similar to the double complementary, but instead we'll skip 1 color on each side. As a result, we kind of get this rectangular shape if we connect the dots. Again, great one to use if you have multiple competing visual elements. The 9th one is called the square tetrad. I think you'll be able to guess the difference before I show you, but this time around, the 4 colors we choose will be at equal distance on a chromatic circle. Basically, it gives us the 2 most opposite complementary color pairs, and connecting them all gives us a square shape. Hence the name. Boom! And then we've finally got insane. Time to introduce the last scheme of this class, the polychromatic color harmony. Poly meaning that we're just gonna end up using colors from every corner of the chromatic circle. Woohoo! Usually that's going to be 5 or more colors at equal-ish distance from each other. We're painting with a rainbow. This might sound crazy, but if we follow the different guidelines I mentioned earlier in the class about picking a lead and secondary and then adjusting the various levels of contrast and rarity to create a solid visual hierarchy, you can get some super nice results out of this one. See? Not bad. But if you just use all the colors without determining their hierarchy though, you're probably gonna end up with visual garbage instead. The more colors you use, the more important the hierarchy becomes. And well, that's gonna wrap it up for this week's class. If you're still here, you get free brushes. If you haven't already, you can go ahead and click the link in the video description to download one of my 2 main brush packs for free for being a good student and following until the end. These are some of my favorite brushes. I use them all the time. I hope you like them. And I hope this class was helpful. Let me know in the comments. See you next time. Now that's strange.